This is the Troll Patrol, live with Justin FREAKIN.
Welcome back to the Troll Patrol live. This is part 2 of the second day of the Senate trial in the impeachment process of Donald J. Trump. We've heard about 6 hours of testimony thus far today. We've got about 2 more to go. The Senate currently in recess for a dinner lunch break. They were supposed to reconvene about 10 minutes ago, so we are waiting any time. I actually hit the countdown when I saw C-SPAN. No, I'm on PBS. I hit the countdown when I saw PBS. Yeah, let's go to C-SPAN. I'd rather go to C-SPAN anyway. I didn't watch any of the calls or anything because I had to fucking shovel some food in my face. I was starving. So C-SPAN has a live shot up right now. You can't get into Trump rallies with bats and stuff. It's all Antifa. It had to be Antifa. I am certainly not stoned enough for this now. They should be reconvening any minute now. Let's see what C-SPAN's talking about.
Former president's lawyers, they will have...
Speaking of calls, 917-830-4359 if you'd like to call in.
Arguments in defense of the president on this...
Argue with me a little bit before
impeachment
we go back to
the
impeachment proceedings.
US Capitol. After the lawyers make their arguments, and then the Senate will turn to questions from the senators. They have 4 hours.
The question period is going to happen on Sunday. We'll be here with that.
Whether or not to call witnesses, followed by closing arguments, and then deliberation and vote on conviction. They will need 2/3 of the Senate to convict. That's 67 senators. Yesterday's vote on the constitutional question garnered 6 Republicans. That means they would need 11 more Republicans to convict the former president. Now, Brian Stelter for CNN reports from his colleague on Capitol Hill, Manu Raju, that several GOP senators have made clear they view the footage they've seen today by House managers throughout the afternoon as chilling and are shaken by what they saw. But they are signaling they won't change their plans to vote to acquit former President Trump in the impeachment case.
Make it make sense.
MSNBC, Republican James Lankford, watching the footage of the Capitol Police officer being crushed, appeared emotional. Sitting at his desk with his head bent down, Steve Daines put his hand on his colleague's arm, appearing to comfort him. And you had CBS's news reporting Mitt Romney was blinking rapidly and watching intently as impeachment managers showed that January 6th footage of him being directed to safety by Capitol Police officers.
Yes, the footage of the senators was effective.
Rebecca Shabbat of NBC reporting Senator Rick Scott. We'll read that later. The Senate is back. We'll take you there now. Live coverage.
Rick Scott said it was a total waste of time? What?
President, distinguished members of the Senate.
Rick Scott is a vile human being.
Cicilline and Castro will now remind us of what President Trump was doing during the attack. They will show how he continued to stoke the insurrection and refused to speak out against the violence or do anything to stop it. Mr. Cicilline.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, you just heard from my colleagues about the harrowing events that happened here at the Capitol on January 6th and saw that very disturbing video.
I've said it before, and I'll say it again. I do not know anybody from Rhode Island.
Pennsylvania Avenue.
I've never been to Rhode Island. I don't know anybody that's been to Rhode Island. I don't think it's real.
Facts are that on January 6th, Donald Trump did not once condemn this attack. He did not once condemn the attackers. In fact, on January 6th, the only person he condemned was his own vice president, Mike Pence, who was hiding in this building
Well, also his staff for not getting
in fear for his life.
excited enough about what was going
First
on.
crucial hours of this violent attack, he did nothing to stop it, nothing to help us. By all accounts, from the people that were around him, he was delighted. And here's the last thing Donald Trump said that day. And you might remember this
Jubilant.
from my motions presentation earlier in the week. At 6 p.m. on January 6th, after all the destruction that you just saw, the Capitol Police and the National Guard fighting.
Oh, you mean what Rick Scott said was a waste of
Here's
time?
what Donald Trump tweeted. These are the things and events that happen when a sacred landslide election victory is so unceremoniously and viciously stripped away from great patriots who have been badly and unfairly treated for so long. Go home with love and in peace. Remember this day forever. He got what he incited, and according to Donald Trump, we got.
Now, I'm interested to see exactly what the Democrats say tomorrow.
Donald Trump's
It
incitement
seems like they've
of
made
this
their case
insurrection,
awfully well
including
today.
his dereliction of his duty as commander-in-chief to defend the Capitol and the people in it, his complete refusal to condemn the attack while it was going on, and his continued incitement of the violence during the attack require impeachment. Now let's turn to then President Trump's conduct that day. I want to start at the beginning when he addressed his thousands of great patriots, as he called them that morning. Around noon, Donald Trump began speaking at his rally just down Pennsylvania Avenue. Even before Donald Trump finished speaking, his supporters began to walk down toward the Capitol, and they were already starting to chant, "Stop the steal, storm the Capitol, invade the Capitol, fight for Trump." And by 12:53 p.m., they had violently forced their way through the barricades here at the Capitol. Now, about 1 o'clock that day, with this chaos just starting, Speaker Pelosi, as the Constitution requires, formally commenced the process by which this chamber certifies the election results. Within 10 minutes, at 1:11 p.m., as if almost on cue, Donald Trump concluded his speech with his final reminder to the thousands gathered there.
Yeah, we weren't even watching the end of Trump's speech. I had both up. We went to the Capitol because I'm so done with Trump.
We're going to try and give, but we're going to try and give our Republicans, the weak ones, because the strong ones don't need any of our help. We're going to try and give them the kind of pride and boldness.
If they would bend to your will, they are not strong,
So
sir.
let's walk down Pennsylvania
They are absolute
Avenue.
cowards.
I want to thank you all. God bless you, and God bless America. Thank you all for being here. This is incredible. Thank you very much.
Now, you've seen what happened when these supporters, following his orders, arrived here at the Capitol. But I want to look at what happened next. Now, you'll recall during the speech, President Trump said, "We're going to the Capitol," sort of suggesting that he was going to go with this crowd. Of course, that was not true. But let's hear what he said.
Of course it's not true. He's a fucking
Now it
coward.
is up to Congress to confront this egregious assault on our democracy. And after this, we're going to walk down, and I'll be there with you. We're going to walk down. We're going to walk down anyone you want, but I think right here, we're going to walk down to the Capitol.
This, of course, was not true. He did not go with him to the Capitol. He left and went back to the White House. And while he was en route to the White House, violence really began to grow here at the Capitol. And within minutes of Donald Trump's speech ending, there were significant reports of escalating violence that began to surface. Buildings around the Capitol were starting to be evacuated. And by 1:15, an explosive device had been found at the DNC. A pipe bomb had been found at the RNC about 15 minutes earlier. The House Sergeant at Arms had called for immediate assistance. At 1:34 p.m., the mayor of Washington, D.C. called for additional National Guard troops. I won't go through all of the details of the violence that unfolded here. You just saw that. But as we walk through what our commander-in-chief did that day, I want to be very clear about exactly what was
Okay,
happening
now this is the part I've been waiting for.
at the same time. For 40 minutes, while buildings were being cleared, pipe bombs were being found, his supporters were literally breaching the perimeter of the Capitol and overwhelming law enforcement, and you saw the violence that was occurring. We heard nothing from the President of the United States. We didn't hear anything from Donald Trump until 1:49 p.m., when while all of this is unfolding, President Trump sent out a tweet. This was the first thing he did when he learned the United States Capitol, with all the members of Congress, his own vice president,
The first thing he did that we know of.
violent attack. And what was that tweet? Nearly an hour after the rioters breached the Capitol perimeter, at 1:49, Donald Trump released a propaganda reel of his Save America speech that he'd given an hour before. I want to be clear.
Almost if he was trying to incite more people.
Breaching the Capitol, attacking law enforcement, the violence is being broadcast all over the television for the whole world to see, including the President of the United States. And I want to show you, this is what is happening right before Donald Trump sends that video out again, and as he does it.
Our country has had enough. We will not take it anymore, and that's what this is all about. And to use a favorite term that all of you people really came up with, we will stop the steal. Because you'll never take back our country with weakness. You have to show strength, and you have to be strong.
Even if President Trump claims he didn't know the extent of the violence that would follow his speech, it was now happening in plain view, broadcast on television. His supporters were attacking law enforcement. The mayor and the police chief were calling for help. Members of Congress and the vice president were inside, scared for their lives. And he doesn't send help, doesn't try to stop it, doesn't even acknowledge the attack. Instead, our commander-in-chief tweeted the video of the speech that he'd given before that included language like, "Our country has had enough, we will not take it anymore, and that's what this is all about. You have to be strong." Those around Donald Trump, as was later reported, were disgusted. His close aides, his advisors, those working for him, former officials, even his family were begging him to do something. Kellyanne Conway, the president's close advisor, called to, quote, add her name to the chorus of aides urging Donald Trump to take action. Ivanka Trump, the president's own daughter, went to the Oval Office as soon as the rioting escalated and was, as confirmed by Senator Graham, quote, trying to get Trump to speak out, to tell everyone to leave, end quote. Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy called Jared Kushner, pleading with him to persuade Trump to issue a statement or to do something. And Kushner, too, went down to the White House after that call. And it wasn't just the people at the White House. Members of Congress from both parties who were trapped here were calling the White House to ask for help. Some members even appealed directly to Donald Trump. These members who had, quote, been loyal Trump supporters and were even willing to vote against the Electoral College results were now scared for their lives. Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy repeatedly even got into a screaming match as the attack was underway, demanding that Trump do something, issue a statement denouncing the mob. I imagine many of you sitting here today
Wow.
picked up your phone and tried to reach somebody at the White House to ask for help. This wasn't partisan politics. These were Americans from all sides trying to force our commander-in-chief to
do his
protect
job.
and defend our country. He was required to do that. Now, the extent of how many people tried to reach the president to get him to act is not known. But what is clear, what we know without any doubt, is that from the very beginning, the people around Donald Trump lobbied him to take command. What's also clear is what Donald Trump, our commander-in-chief, did in those initial hours to protect us. Nothing. Not a thing. He knew it was happening. The attack was on TV. We all know that President Trump had the power to stop these attacks. He was our commander-in-chief. He had the power to assess the security situation, send backup, send help. He also had incited this violent attack. They were listening to him. He could have commanded them to leave. But he didn't. The first critical hour and a half of this bloody attack, Donald Trump tweeted his rally speech and did nothing else. And we know why. We know his state of mind that prompted his utter, complete refusal to defend us. It was reported by those around him. The president, as reported by sources at the time, was delighted. As he watched the violence unfold on television, President Trump was reportedly, and I quote, borderline enthusiastic because it meant the certification was being derailed, end quote. Senator Ben Sasse relayed a conversation with senior White House officials that President Trump was, quote, walking around the White House, confused about why other people on his team weren't as excited as he was, end quote. Trump's reaction to this attack reportedly genuinely freaked people out. I understand why. We just suffered a very serious attack on our country. And we saw it, and the people around him knew it. But when Donald Trump saw it, he was delighted. Now, what President Trump did next confirms why he was so delighted, why he wanted this. Because it shows that his singular focus that day, the day we were attacked, was not protecting us, was not protecting you, was not protecting the Capitol. It was stopping the certification of the election results. The evidence is clear. Shortly after 2 p.m., as the siege was fully underway, then President Trump made a call. This is the first call that we are aware he made to anyone inside the Capitol during the attack. Didn't call the vice president to ask how he could help defend the Capitol. Didn't call the next two in line to the succession of the presidency to check on their safety or well-being. Instead, he attempted to call Senator Tuberville. Dialed Senator Lee by accident. Senator Lee describes it. He had just ended a prayer with his colleagues here in the Senate chamber, and the phone rang. It was Donald Trump. And how Senator Lee explains it is that the phone call goes something like this. Hey, Tommy, Trump asks, and Senator Lee says, this isn't Tommy, and he hands the phone to Senator Tuberville. Senator Lee then confirmed that he stood by as Senator Tuberville and President Trump spoke on the phone. And on that call...
Why would Trump want to speak to the senator who's been there like 3 fucking days?
The certification process. That's why he called. But let's be clear, at roughly 2 p.m., when Donald Trump was walking around the White House, watching the TV delighted, and spent 5 to 10 minutes talking to Senator Tuberville, urging him to delay the election results, this is what was happening in the Capitol.
We'll pause.
Protesters are in the building.
Thank you.
You saw Senator Langford stop speaking and leave the floor quickly in that clip because the insurgents had broken through the barricades and had entered the building. And as these armed insurrectionists banged on the doors, members of Congress were told to put on their gas masks, to put bags over their heads for safety and prepare to evacuate. Trump was calling to ask a senator to delay the certification process.
As the certification process was being delayed.
Donald Trump
by
didn't
his
finish
actions.
that call. It was cut off because the senators had to move to another location for your security. And thank God they did. Because as the call was occurring, the rioters got closer to the Senate chambers. And as we all know now, but for the heroism of Capitol Police Officer Eugene Goodman and other law enforcement officers who took them in a different direction to the police line, they very likely would have gotten here. Think about that. Armed insurrectionists, guns, weapons, zip ties, brass knuckles, they were coming for us. They were inside the United States Capitol, trying to stop the certification process. The police were outnumbered, and but for the grace of God, they would have gotten us, all of us. And our commander-in-chief makes a call about an hour after the siege began, not to preserve, protect, and defend you and our country and the Capitol, but to join forces with the mob and pressure a senator to stop certification. We just can't get numb to this kind of behavior. There can be no doubt as to the purpose of Donald Trump's call, that he was not calling to assess the security threats or to check on the well-being of you or anyone else. Indeed, later on that evening, while all of the destruction and damage still continued, dozens of officers were being treated for serious injuries. Deaths were confirmed. About 7 p.m., the president's personal lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, made a call. And just in case you don't think there was some coordination, he also called Senator Lee's phone trying to reach Senator Tuberville. We don't have to guess as to what Rudy Giuliani said in that voicemail because we have it recorded. So let's listen to what the president's personal lawyer said.
Oh God, this is going to be good.
Of this attack.
Senator Tuberville, or I should say Coach Tuberville, this is Rudy Giuliani, president's lawyer. I'm calling you because I want to discuss with you how they're trying to rush this hearing and how we need you, our Republican friends, to try to just slow it down.
This was the singular focus of Donald Trump during this bloody, violent attack on the Capitol, stopping the certification. Look, as I mentioned, I was a trial lawyer for 16 years. Sometimes you have to ask a jury to use reasonable inferences to piece together a defendant's state of mind. We don't have to do this here. While our country was violently attacked by an armed mob, President Trump not only refused to stop the attack or even address the attack at all.
He was aiding them.
He made clear his focus was the same goal of the attackers he had incited: to stop the certification process and prevent the peaceful transition of power. The only action we
aided them
an hour into this attack was to call Senator Tuberville to ask him to delay the certification.
and literally provided them comfort.
Evidence as I have ever seen of what Donald
Aid
Trump
and comfort
said about that.
to the enemy.
Now look, the The certification process, as we all know, includes debate and objections. Some of us disagreed, but we came here on January 6th to formally administer.
Now, I wonder how many people that were there on January the 6th
And at the end of it,
are currently sick with coronavirus.
we continue to be a country with leaders who are elected by the people.
We're a little over a month out.
Donald Trump's objection to the certification are not on trial. But what is on trial is while we were under armed attack and being evacuated, while our law enforcement officers were fighting for their lives, our commander-in-chief was calling not to determine how to best secure the building and the people in it, but to continue to pressure senators to stop the certification process and the peaceful transfer of power, just as he incited the mob to do earlier in the day. This was a breathtaking dereliction of his duty and of his violation of his oath as our commander-in-chief. Senators, before I hand this over to Manager Castro to walk through the rest of the day, please let me make one final point.
We'll let you.
These attackers stood right where you
Representative
They
Cicilline.
went on that rostrum. They rifled through your desks and they desecrated this place. And literally, the president sat delighted, doing nothing to help us, calling one of you to pressure you to stop the certification. It can't be that the commander-in-chief can incite a lawless, bloody insurrection and then utterly fail in his duty as commander-in-chief to defend us from the attack, to defend our law enforcement officers from that attack, and just get away with it. Donald Trump abdicated his duty to us all. We have to make this right, and you can make it right.
I still don't think they have highlighted exactly the extent that Trump went to hamper the federal agencies, but overall his presentation was very good.
My fellow manager, David Cicilline, showed you what President Trump did and did not do in those first critical hours of the attack. He sent a tweet at 1:49 p.m. where he reposted a video of the speech that incited the attack. And he called a senator to ask him to delay the certification.
A senator who had
as the
been
senator
in
was
that
being
seat
evacuated
for
his own
days.
safety. We left off around 2:15 p.m. At this point, insurgents were inside the Senate and the House, and the Senate had been evacuated for everyone's safety.
I just think, like,
And as you saw, Vice President Mike Pence,
of course they're going to
family
contact the freshman
even had to
senator.
be evacuated for their safety.
And the dumbest senator, by the way.
You'll recall,
That's saying a lot.
Donald Trump had made Vice President Pence a target. He attacked the Vice President at the rallies, in speeches, and on Twitter. And during President Trump's speech that morning of the attack, he ramped it up again. After privately pressuring Mike Pence in front of thousands in the crowd, he called Mike Pence out 11 times, including saying, quote, "Mike Pence, I hope you
11
stand up for the
times.
good of our Constitution and for the good of your country. And if you're not, I'm going to be disappointed in you. I will tell you right now." And this was the crowd's response to Donald Trump's days of relentless attacks on his own vice president. By 2:15 p.m., the crowd was chanting in unison, "Hang Mike Pence," outside the very building he'd been evacuated from with his family. Now, even if President Trump didn't know that his inflammatory remarks about his vice president would result in chance of hang Mike Pence, by 2:15 p.m., he surely knew. The attack was all over television. They were doing this out in the open.
Well, he didn't like Mike Pence either.
Life, whose family's life.
I don't think anybody would have been happier
Threatened by
than
people
Trump had they
President
hanged Mike
had
Pence.
summoned to the Capitol.
Hanged? Hanged, right? Not hung. Hanged.
And what did President Trump do in response?
I think.
Did he stop?
I might be wrong.
Did he tell his base, no, don't attack my vice president? Even when President Trump knew what his words were causing, he didn't do any of those things to stop the crowd. In fact, he did the opposite. He fueled the fire. At 2:24 p.m., he tweeted, quote, Mike Pence didn't have the courage to do what should have been done to protect our country and our Constitution. USA demands the truth. Over an hour and a half into the attack, and this is what he tweeted. And he still, even at this point, did not acknowledge the attack on the Capitol, let alone condemn it. Instead, he further incites the mob against his own vice president, whose life was being threatened. Well, some of you may say, well,
He would totally trade the life of Mike Pence to continue being president. Not a doubt in my mind.
Mike Pence didn't have the courage to do what should have been done to protect our country and our Constitution, giving states a chance to certify a corrected set of facts, not the fraudulent or inaccurate ones which they were asked to previously certify. U.S. demands the truth.
Mike Pence is a bitch! Mike Pence is a bitch!
Can I speak to Pelosi? Yeah, we're coming, bitch! Oh, Mike Pence, we're coming for you too, fucking traitor!
Donald J. Trump sent a tweet out saying that Mike Pence let us down. Mike Pence let us down, people. If you want to get something done, you're going to have to do it yourself.
the insurgents amplified President Trump's tweet attacking the vice president with a bullhorn.
Literally.
They were paying attention. And they also followed instructions. In fact, the insurgents were at one point, as you saw, 60 feet away from the vice president and the vice president's family. Some of these insurgents were heard saying, quote, that they hope to find Vice President Mike Pence and execute him by hanging him from a Capitol Hill tree as a traitor. And then they erected a gallows with a noose. This is what Donald Trump incited. Please take a close look at that picture. It harkens back to our nation's worst history of lynching. A president's words have the power to move people to action. These were the results. And why did the president incite such rage against the vice president? He was fulfilling his constitutional duty, as we all were that day.
Because
Vice
Trump's a
President
gigantic
Trump's
baby
country in
who
carrying out
can't
this
take
constitutional
losing.
duty, overseeing the certification of the election results, without incident, without
To the
contest,
point of inciting
without
a
word,
violent riot.
for the entirety of our nation. It's part of our peaceful transition of power in the United States. And the Vice President said he reviewed the Constitution and he could not block certification as President Trump wanted him and was pressuring him to do. He told the President in a letter that morning, a few hours before President Trump's tweet, quote, "I will approach this moment with a sense of duty and an open mind, setting politics and personal interests aside, and do my part to faithfully discharge my duties, our duties, under the Constitution. I also pray that we will do so with humility and faith." And the President's response to that statement was to attack Mike Pence while he was with his family under the threat of a violent mob.
You can be a patriot or you can be a pussy.
Following his faith, his
Was what
duty,
he told him.
his oath to our nation.
I don't know if he said that in front of his family, but it'd be like bitching if he
Don't agree
did.
on too much in politics, but he's a man who upholds his
In
oath,
front of mother and the kids.
his duty.
Mike Pence, you can be a patriot or you can be a pussy.
And Mike Pence is not a traitor to this country. And he and his family,
well, not in this
that
instance.
day, didn't deserve this.
I think
President
anyone
unleashing a mob on them.
that was working with
Especially
Trump at any point in time is a traitor to
job.
this country. We've known all
As this
along
was
what Trump
unfolding
was.
And the crowd grew more violent. The president, of course, was not alone at the White House. And the people closest to him, his family and advisors who saw this unfolding in real time, begged him, implored him to stop the attack. An aide to Mark Meadows, the president's chief of staff, urged his boss to go see the president, saying, quote, "They are going to kill people. They're going to kill people." That's what those around President Trump feared. And still, nothing. It wasn't until 2:38 p.m., nearly 2 hours after the start of the siege, that Donald Trump even acknowledged the attack. And when he finally did acknowledge the attack, here's what he said. On the right, you'll see what had been happening prior to that tweet and as he sent the tweet. And on the left, you'll see exactly what he tweeted.
I'm going to stop you there for just one moment because we do have some breaking news. We want to bring in congressional correspondent Chad Pergram as this is just all developing right now. Chad, I understand the Capitol is now on lockdown.
They're definitely fired up. The chant, by the way, I heard the most today was "Fight for Trump," and that's clearly what many of them feel they're doing here.
That's what our president saw unfolding in real time, broadcast all over television. And this is what he tweeted at 2:38 p.m. Quote, "Please support our Capitol Police and law enforcement. They're truly on the side of our country. Stay peaceful." And much has been made of the fact that in this tweet, he says, "Stay peaceful." Senators, stay peaceful?
They weren't peaceful.
Think about that for a second.
Stay peaceful.
These folks were not peaceful. They were breaking windows, pushing through law enforcement officers, waving the flag as they invaded this Capitol building. This was a violent, armed attack. Stay peaceful? How about Stop the attack. Stop the violence. Stay peaceful? How about you say, immediately leave? Stop. And he said, please support our law enforcement. How about he actually support our law enforcement by telling these insurgents to leave the Capitol immediately, which he never did. He didn't. Because the truth is, he didn't want it to stop. He wanted them to stay and to stop the certification. And his failure had grave and deadly consequences. By 2:45 p.m., the warnings were tragically proven correct. Ashley Babbitt was shot by an officer as she tried to break through a glass door to reach the Speaker's lobby. At this point, the pleas to Donald Trump, publicly and privately, grew even more desperate. At 2:54 p.m., Alyssa Farah, a former strategic communications director, begged the president, quote, condemn this now. You're the only one they will listen to for our country. Mick Mulvaney, the president's former chief of staff, his right-hand man at one point, tweeted at 3:01, the president's tweet is not enough. He can stop this now and needs to do exactly that. Tell these folks to go home. He can stop this now. Tell these folks to go home. At 3:06 p.m., Rep. McCarthy appeared on Fox News. Here's what he said.
I could not be sadder or more disappointed with the way our country looks at this very moment. People are getting hurt. Anyone involved in this, if you're hearing me, hear me very loud and clear. This is not the American way.
He's saying on Fox News, which the president watches, this is not the American way. Stop the attack. Representative Gallagher at 3:11 p.m., while secured in his own office,
3:11,
posted a video to Twitter.
Mr. President, you have got to stop this. You are the only person who can call this off. Call it off.
And then, when the president didn't answer his pleas on Twitter, Representative Gallagher went on live television.
I mean, this is insane. I mean, I've not seen anything like this since I deployed to Iraq in 2007 and 2008. I mean, this is America, and this is what's happening right now. The president needs to call it off. Like, call it off. Call it off.
Representative Gallagher, you see there, said he'd not seen anything like this since he was deployed in Iraq. The message around the president was clear from everyone. You need to call this off. Stop it. But does he?
Well, of course not.
No. His next tweet was not until about 3:13 p.m. Once again, it's important to consider what was happening between Donald Trump's 2:38 p.m. tweet and his next tweet at 3:13 p.m. You'll see footage from the attack during that time on the right and Donald Trump's tweet on the left.
We've been informed that protesters have penetrated the Capitol.
This is my fucking building. Hey, we got a fucking attitude problem.
We have penetration.
Sentiment in the streets is really getting to a different level. This is spinning out of control. This is turning violent. This is getting dangerous.
Stand up for America. Got one idea. Don't touch me.
Get the fuck out of here.
Scrappy.
This isn't 10 minutes into the insurrection. This isn't just
hours.
His speech earlier that day. That's what our commander-in-chief saw happening. And that was his response. You'll notice.
I don't know if he saw that happening. We saw those videos later.
To these insurrectionists.
But that was what was going on at that time.
Was to say thank you. Thank you. Thank you for what?
He loved him.
The windows and destroying property. Thank you for injuring more than 140 police officers. Thank you for putting in danger all of our lives and the lives of our families. How about instead of thank you, Donald Trump on that day acted like our commander-in-chief and stopped this as only he could.
Well, the point is he said thank you because they did what he asked them to.
Here's what
which proves your case that he incited the riot.
Said after that tweet.
Pretty simple. The president caused this protest to occur. He's the only one who can make it stop. What the president said is not good enough. The president has to come out and tell his supporters to leave the Capitol grounds and to allow the Congress to do...
Like, this is airtight, right? I'm not just biased against him.
Of that is an abrogation of his responsibility.
Like, you could sit somebody down that had no knowledge of any of this shit. Let them watch these proceedings.
We know how Donald Trump acts on Twitter.
And they would agree, like, yeah, that motherfucker needs to be impeached.
In fact, I asked you to remember those tweets earlier this morning when he yelled on Twitter, "Stop the count." When he wanted to incite his supporters.
Well, it depends on which side was like, if the fascist side was doing it in another country
between midnight on January
against a popular elected government, no, we wouldn't bomb.
16 times to get them to do something.
Depends on the dynamics.
And his message in those 16 times was clear.
But yes, point taken though.
Stay strong. Be strong. But when the violence started, he never once said the one thing everyone around him was begging him to say. Stop the attack. He refused to stop it. And as Governor Christie and Representative Kinzinger and others made clear, only Donald Trump could have stopped that attack.
You know, a guy that knows how to tweet very aggressively on Twitter, you know, puts out one of the weakest statements in one of the saddest days in American history because his ego won't let him, you know, admit defeat.
Damn.
He was not just our commander-in-chief. He had incited the attack. The insurgents were following his commands. And we saw when they read aloud this tweet, attacking the vice president. And they confirmed this during the attack, too.
We're outnumbered. There's a fucking million of us out there, and we are listening to Trump. You're the boss.
We're listening to Trump, your boss.
Senators, ask yourself this.
Clearly showing they know nothing about how the government works.
A simple instruction.
And the co-equal branches of government.
Stop.
Complete and total morons.
This was a dereliction of duty. Plain and simple. And it would have been for any president who had done that. And that brings me to my next point. You heard from my colleagues that when planning this attack, the insurgents predicted that Donald Trump would command the National Guard to help them. And there's a lot that we don't know yet about what happened that day. But here's what we do know. Donald Trump did not send help to these officers who were badly outnumbered, overwhelmed, and being beaten down. 2 hours into the insurrection, by 3 p.m., President Trump had not deployed the National Guard or any other law enforcement to help, despite multiple pleas to do so. President Donald Trump was at the time our Commander-in-Chief of the United States of America. He took a solemn oath to preserve, protect, and defend.
They denied requests.
And he failed to uphold that oath. In fact, there's no indication that President Trump ever made a call to have the Guard deployed or had anything to do with the Guard being deployed when it ultimately...
Yeah, apparently that was a back channel deal.
And shortly after 3:04 p.m., that
the Guard wanted to deploy.
And listed the people he spoke with prior to this activation.
Yeah, it was Vice President and Speaker Pelosi.
Vice President Mike Pence, Speaker Pelosi, Leader McConnell, Senator Schumer, and Representative Hoyer. But that list did not include the president. This omission of his name was reportedly not accidental. According to reports, quote, Trump initially rebuffed requests to mobilize the National Guard and required interference by other officials, including his own White House counsel. And later, quote, as a mob of Trump supporters breached police barricades and seized the Capitol, Trump reportedly was, quote, disengaged in discussions with Pentagon leaders about deploying the National Guard to aid the overwhelmed U.S. Capitol Police. President Trump was reportedly, and I quote, completely, totally out of it. He made no attempt to reach the National Guard, and it was Vice President Pence, still under the threat for his life, who reportedly spoke to the Guard. President Trump's conduct confirms this too. At no point on January 6th did Donald Trump even reference the National Guard. The only thing that we heard connecting the president to the Guard was from his press secretary, who tweeted about the Guard being deployed at the president's direction over half an hour later at 3:36 p.m.
At the president's direction.
We have seen what Donald Trump does when he tries to take credit for something. And yet,
has anybody heard from Kayleigh
even when the National
McEnany?
Guard was finally deployed, he didn't even acknowledge it. In fact, he didn't say a word about
She
the
gonna
National
end up
Guard
on
the
Newsmax?
entire day. Think about that.
Man, the Democrats have actually done a really good job.
The bloodiest attack we've seen on our Capitol since 1812.
They've done a much better job than you would have ever expected them to do.
Even mention that help was on its way.
I don't remember if you were here yesterday, but one of Trump's lawyers touches the top of his head every time he takes a drink of water, and I lost my shit every time he did it.
Thousands of armed insurgents in a fight for their lives.
And I'm going to feel bad if he's got some kind of Tourette's or something.
Unprotected.
Hold on, man. I've got a picture of it. They've been showing video. We've actually seen some never-before-seen video. They've had Capitol security footage. And that was actually really effective because they showed senators being evacuated and shit.
This is hard to watch, but I think it's
And they spoke directly to them.
what police were facing, how severely
This is one of Trump's lawyers, David
Commander-in-Chief, whose
Schoen,
job it was to protect and defend them.
who touches his head every time he
Doing
takes a
nothing
drink of water.
for hours, refusing to send help. If he wanted to protect these officers, if he cared about their safety, as he tweeted about, he would have told his supporters to leave.
Yeah, the mic drop moment before they broke for lunch.
One brave officer was killed.
Yeah, that was the meme that people, but like, watching it live though, man. Like the first time he did it, I kind of chuckled, like, oh, that's odd.
Spinal discs.
I wonder if he'll do it again. And when he did it the second time, I fucking lost it. And then every subsequent time he did it, probably 6 or 7 times.
Overwhelmed by a mob. and needed
fucking
help.
died.
Commander-in-Chief, President Trump, refused to send it.
That's better than Nia Jax saying, oh, my hole.
You've seen all the evidence so far, and this is clear. On January 6th, President Trump left everyone.
In case anybody doesn't know about the oh, my hole thing. Oh, hold on. Here we go.
For the next hour, after President Trump's 3 p.m. tweet, he still did nothing. Not until 4:17 p.m., over 3.5 hours after the violence started, did our president send a message finally asking the insurgents to go home.
That's why Oh My Hole was trending on Twitter the other day.
His pre-recorded video. On the left, you'll see his message. Let's watch.
I'll spark it up with you.
We had an election that was stolen from us. It was a landslide election, and everyone knows it, especially the other side. But you have to go home now. We have to have peace. We have to have law and order. We have to respect our great people in law and order. We don't want anybody hurt. It's a very tough period of time. There's never been a time like this where
we've got to respect the people that make law and order.
They could take it away from all of us, from me, from you, from our country. This was a
no streaming today at all.
But we can't play into the hands of these people.
Tonight is Intellectual Dollar Tree, isn't it?
We love you. You're very special. You've seen what happens. You see the way others are treated that are so bad and so evil. I know how you feel.
You don't do that.
Go home in peace.
I'm not doing a proper show this week. We're doing impeachment.
Since the attack began, over the 3.5 hours after it started. And these are the entirety of the words the president spoke out loud to the American people.
Wow.
Or to the attackers that entire day.
Do you have some kind of plans?
Not once.
Are you taking a little trip?
I condemn this insurrection. I condemn what you did today. Nowhere did he say, I'm sending help immediately. Stop this. Here's what he said instead.
At the same time, like, I can't get it up when I do hallucinogens.
We had an election that was stolen. Even after all the things we witnessed, even after all of that carnage, he goes
or is it like
and tells the same big lie.
But do you do the acid and then masturbate? Or do you masturbate first and then drop some acid?
He repeated this.
I'm interested in this process.
And while we were still under threat. And here's what else.
Oh, yes. I highly recommend both.
We love you. You're very special. Senators, you were here.
Or I actually, I got some mushrooms one time from a guy that grows like gourmet mushrooms.
And when President
and he
Trump
also grew some magic mushrooms, and they were like better than any acid I've ever had.
Commander-in-Chief, what did he tell them?
They were insanely good.
You're very special. This was not a condemnation.
My friend spent the entire night hugging the toilet. I don't think she ever threw up, but she couldn't
of praise.
Join me in the main room as I danced to Radiohead.
Took this as a message of support and praise. Watch for yourselves.
Donald Trump asked everybody to go home. He just put out a tweet. It's a minute long. He asked everybody to go home.
Why do you think so?
Because, dude, we won the fucking day. We fucking won.
How did we win?
Well, we won by sending a
So
message.
there he is saying, he put out a tweet saying, go home, we're going home.
Okay, that if they
They have proven beyond a shadow of a doubt that they are taking orders from Trump.
then we will remove them from office one way or another.
I suspect you recognize that man. You'll hear him say that we won the day. Who won the day?
We do not know for sure if they're calling witnesses and who they might call.
The House and the Senate were in life.
QAnon shaman is a possibility in this proceeding.
Else here as well. Who won on January 6th? That's not a win for America, but it is a win for Donald Trump unless we hold him accountable.
Yes.
Now, a little over an hour after that video, the brave members of law enforcement secured the Capitol, and we as a Congress got ready to continue certifying the results of our free and fair election. A half hour after that, President Trump issued another tweet in case there was any doubt as to whether he was happy with the people who did this, as to whether he had incited this. He commemorated what happened on January 6th. At 6:01 p.m. on January 6th, he tweeted, quote,
Winchy Wednesday. I love it.
Sacred landslide election victory is so unceremoniously and viciously stripped away from great patriots who've been badly and unfairly treated for so long.
It's a great name.
Remember this day forever. My colleague, Manager Cicilline,
Never forget.
With this tweet, because this tweet shows exactly how Donald Trump felt about what happened on January 6th. These are the things that happened. He's saying this was foreseeable. He's saying, I told you this was going to happen if you certified the election for anyone else. And you got what you deserve.
This was totally foreseeable. We all saw this coming back in like 2016.
Go home.
The man wouldn't want to leave office and would go to any length
He's saying to them, you
to
did
make
good.
sure he could stay in power.
He's not regretful. He's not grieving. He's not sad. He's not angry about the attack. He's celebrating it. He's commemorating it. This is the entirety of what President Trump said to the public once the attack began. 5 tweets and a pre-recorded video. On the day of the most bloody insurrection we've faced in generations, our commander-in-chief, who's known for sending 108 tweets in a normal day, sent 5 video. That
What's up, Ninja?
Of President Trump's public statements from when the attack began until he went to bed on January 6th.
I vote you revive Winchy Wednesday.
Despite all the
I'm down
people
with
we
it.
know who begged him to preserve, protect, and defend. That was our commander-in-chief's response.
Open source Mario Kart. Hell
Our
yeah.
country has had enough. We will not take it anymore. And that's what this is all
Yeah, they'll just let anybody in here, won't they?
And he ended the attack, letting us know that we got.
We've had some interesting trolls over the last couple of days.
We will, of course, each of us, remember that day forever.
I think Scrappy and Winch set them straight.
Not because of the actions of these.
We had a kid in here running his mouth saying all kinds of crazy shit earlier today.
Because despite President Trump's vicious
Told me not to tell his mom. What I do, I get his mom to call in.
and block the certification.
I told his mom live on the air.
At 8:06 p.m.
Supposedly, he's grounded for 2 weeks from his PS5.
Of the electoral votes continued. About an hour later, the House followed suit.
If you're just joining us, we have about an hour left of debate for the day. The Democrats are finishing up their opening statements. We're going to have another 8 hours of debate tomorrow from the Democrats.
And I'm proud to be part of Congress. I'm proud that we ensured that the will of the American people finally prevailed on that day. And I'm
The
proud that
schedule is still malleable,
abided
but
by our oath of office. Even
the Republicans
didn't abide by his. And President
will
Trump
start their presentation
took an
on
oath as
Friday.
president. He swore on a Bible to preserve, protect, and defend.
8 hours on Friday, 8 hours on Saturday.
honestly say
There will be a question session from senators on Sunday.
And who among us
So Sunday should be really fucking fun.
stand?
Now, if you didn't join us yesterday, Trump's lawyers are completely and totally out of their league, 100% out of their depth.
Mr. President, the managers are prepared to
Oh, no, we'll do video.
Evening and to finish our opening statement tomorrow.
Oh. They are wrapping up earlier than I thought they would.
President, Mr. President.
No, we'll absolutely do video.
Mr. President.
Majority Leader.
Pursuant to Impeachment Rule 16, I make a motion. Statements were attributed to me moments ago by the House impeachment managers. Statements relating to the content of conversations between...
this is Mike Lee, I do believe, right?
Trump and Senator Tuberville were not made by me. They're not accurate, and they're contrary to fact. I move, pursuant to Rule 16, that they be stricken from the record.
What is he taking issue with here?
Pursuant to Senate Resolution 47, Section 4, parties' presentations are not limited to the record provided for in Section 1 of that resolution. Senator,
I appeal the ruling of the chair.
So Senator Mike Lee is taking issue with the call that came from either Rudy Giuliani or from Trump. Both made calls to Mike Lee thinking they were calling Tommy Tuberville.
We might as well hear clearly what the ruling of the chair was. So if you would repeat that.
Of course, I will. And pursuant to Senate Resolution 47, Section 4, the parties' presentations are not limited.
Yeah, what is the fucking ruling, Lee?
Senate Resolution 47, Section 4, parties' presentations are not limited to the record provided for in Section 1 of that resolution. The senator from Utah has appealed that ruling. Is that correct?
Yes, I have.
Have you? And the yeas and nays have been requested for sufficient.
And what is the question? Is it, shall the ruling of the chair be sustained? Is that the question?
Yes.
What was the ruling of the chair?
And what, may I ask, is the ruling of the chair? My point was
Thank you.
It's appropriate for them to make characterizations. My point was to strike them because they were false.
What? No. What do you think is false?
Senate Resolution 47 applies to this situation is correct.
The question is whether Senate Resolution 47, Section 4, is correct. The parties' presentations are not limited to the record provided for in Section 1 of that resolution.
Mr. President, that is not my motion. You've ruled on a motion. You've ruled on something that was not what I moved. What I asked was, statements were attributed to me repeatedly, as to which I have personal knowledge because I am the source. They are not true. I never made those statements. I asked that they be stricken. This has nothing to do with whether or not they're based on depositions, which they're not. It's simply based on the fact that I'm the witness. I'm the only witness. Those statements are not true, and I ask that you strike them.
But I don't know what statement he is saying is not true.
President.
We heard a voicemail left by Rudy Giuliani.
No, who's talking? Joe. What is he?
The only sentence cited to Senator Lee,
Mr. President,
was like, "This isn't Tommy," and he handed the phone to him. That was literally the only sentence they cited Mike Lee for.
Come on.
They're in trouble with the mic.
And I have no clue what the fuck Lee's doing.
Yeas and nays have been asked.
Yeas and nays have been asked for.
I don't know what they're taking a vote on. This is all craziness.
Please let him explain, Mr. President. Why is it false? What was not false? What was false about it?
Mr. President,
Yes. That's get to the heart of it.
Resolution 47, Section 4. Parties' presentation not limited to the record.
Just ask him what he found faults about it, please.
And that has been appealed.
This procedural bullshit is why people hate fucking government.
Call the roll.
No, why vote on something? What is going on?
She's calling the roll.
Ms. Baldwin.
Mr. Barrasso.
Holy shit!
Mr. Bennett.
Wait,
Guys, I think I explained this to you. I don't think I'm leaving anything out. I think it was only one sentence attributed to Senator Mike Lee. But it was the message on his cell phone from Rudy Giuliani that was played.
I suggest the absence of a quorum while we work this out.
Clerk will call the roll. No objection. Clerk call the roll.
Ms. Baldwin.
Fascinating. What in the hell is going on?
Mr. Burke.
I just want them to make Mike Lee tell us what was false. What does any of the other bullshit have to do with anything? Oh my God. I don't know that Leahy knows where he is.
Mr. Bennett.
That's an awful lot of people on the floor.
Mrs. Blackburn.
And I can't explain to you what the vote is on because I have no fucking clue. Leahy didn't explain it. Some sort of procedural vote on allowing to change depositions or some shit.
Mr. Blunt.
We do need some decorum up in here. Thank you, Bree Creed. That's the first time in a long time that I've agreed with you.
Mr. Booker.
So we're wrapping up the first day of actual testimony.
Mr. Bozeman.
The Democrats made their case today. About 7 hours of testimony. Currently, we have pandemonium that I'm not sure anyone involved knows what's going on. They're attempting to take some sort of vote. No one really knows what the vote is for. Mike Lee, Senator Mike Lee of Utah, has said that something that was part of the Democrats' presentation is false. That they attributed to him pandemonium. Oh, that's so cute.
The Senate impeachment trial of the former President Trump in a holding pattern right now. As you can see, what we understand to happen is that
they were getting ready to recess for the day.
Managers were ready to adjourn for the evening. They were done making their legal cases for the day. You saw Senator Mike Lee, Republican of Utah, ask that the comments attributed to him in a phone call made by President Trump be struck from the record. You then saw the presiding officer, Senator Patrick Leahy of.
But the comment that he made was only like one sentence.
You heard Senator.
Which was, "This isn't Tommy," and hands Senator Tuberville the phone. Donald Trump and Rudy Giuliani both called Senator Mike Lee by accident, thinking they were calling newly elected Senator Tommy Tuberville from Alabama.
Without objection, there will be order.
Mr. President, we need order.
I don't know what Mike Lee thinks is false, but I also don't know what
Okay.
Senator Leahy, who is the presiding officer, is fucking talking about with anything.
I withdraw the request for the yeas and nays.
Without objection.
Without objection.
Okay, and I withdraw the quorum call and call on the manager, Mr. Raskin, for a brief statement.
The impeachment manager, Mr. Cicilline, correctly and accurately quoted a newspaper account, which the distinguished senator has taken objection to. So we're happy to withdraw it on the grounds that it is not true.
What was the?
Okay, we're going to withdraw it this evening and without any prejudice to the ability to resubmit it if possible, and then we can debate it if we need it, but this is much ado about nothing because it's not critical in any way to our case.
You're not the one being cited as a witness, sir.
All right. So the manager's issue stands. Mr. Lee has withdrawn his request, and we may relitigate it tomorrow if we have to. I now ask unanimous consent. The trial.
Well, that was wild.
12 noon tomorrow, Thursday, February 11th, and this also constitute the adjournment of the Senate.
They were also pissed off at Mike Lee.
Senate stands adjourned.
They thought they were going to get off work early, and Mike Lee's like, "Hold on, I want to shit on this."
This is not working.
Mike.
I mean, the mic is working, but the light isn't.
So that concludes day 2 of the Senate trial of Donald Trump after being impeached by the House last month on one count of inciting an insurrection.
For the evening, they will return tomorrow at noon Eastern time. What unfolded just moments ago was the senator from Utah, Mike Lee, a Republican, asking that the record be struck when it referred to a phone call that the president made. Now, you heard the House impeachment managers withdraw that for now. They may relitigate it tomorrow.
Withdraw it from now.
At noon Eastern time for the second day of the House impeachment manager's case against the former president for inciting an insurrection at the Capitol. There are the phone numbers on your screen. We want to get to your thoughts in just a minute on what you heard today on the case made by House Democrats. Now, you might have noticed right before the slate went up, that's the signage that says the Senate stands adjourned. You might have noticed that the presiding officer, Patrick Leahy, Democrat of Vermont, who's presiding over this,
didn't know where he was at.
To Mike Lee, and then Mike Lee approaches the podium there as those two looked like they were discussing what just happened. Igor Bobek, who reports for the Huffington Post, with this.
Oh, well, they've cut off the stream on YouTube. All right. Oh. That is going to wrap up my stream for the night. If you were on Twitch, let's see who we've got on. Oh, I'm going to send you guys over to Feminist Critique. Oh, shit. We're going to be back tomorrow right around noontime with day 3 of the trial of Donald J. Trump. So please come back and chill with us. And I'm going to have Media Winch with me. I'll get up with you here in just a little bit. Say hi to the ladies over at Feminist Critique for me. I'm going to come over and hang out for just a little bit. Go ahead, light one up, tip one back. It's all right to have a little fun before you hit the sack. I'm Justin Freakin. We will see you tomorrow afternoon on the Troll Patrol, live.